graded based on sometimes your crew rather than your individual, what you've done.
And
I think that as a coach, though, if I was sitting in the coach's shoes, I would feel, though, I want to see the crew out until the score sheets were signed. Because what if, this does happen, and I've been guilty of it as a judge, where I forget to mark a spot, but I've written it down because I'm writing on 2 sheets. And the coach catches it, you know. There needs to be allowable time for that to make a change before score sheets are signed, all that is. And then I think what the manual is saying is after that's done, you can go back to your room, grab your coat or whatever, and it's saying, it's recommended you stay 10 minutes. So that's the subjective part. You know, do we need to stay these 10 minutes and get and have more emotional coaches who talk to us? Can we leave emails? Could a meet manager ask us for that ahead of time? And that be solved later when there's less emotion? I think that's all up to us, you know, at that point. Yeah.
I think there was a great discussion about this at MHSAA, and I think, you know, that recommendation really came from MHSAA, how they want it worded in the book. And, you know, we're always open to suggestions, and you are at some schools, I bet at some schools, when the event manager or the AD says, as soon as you're finished with round 3, I want you back in the judge's room. I don't want you out in the gym. So we also get that report.
Well, this is actually the first sport that I'm involved with where coaches are allowed to just approach you.
Yeah.
Every other sport that I'm involved with is either a written inquiry under certain sections, and that inquiry can be turned in 10 minutes after each competition or round. They have up to then, and then, you know, you can answer when you can. But this is the first one where I've actually had coaches be able to approach you and say, hey, and it's like, I have some where they can't get in 10 feet of you, and you know, so
No, I mean,
it's an
in
interesting.
football and stuff, they're escorted out.
Right.
Yes.
You know, I mean,
So if we want to be equal, why do we want to be approachable?
I mean, we want to be approachable in some type of, you know, we don't want to be like, get away, we're not touch. But we do have to be accountable for our scores, and maybe that's where the inquiry might be a little more difficult, because they'll say, why do I have a 7.2 listed? So that comes into another gray area also, but.
I think that like basketball coaches, they stand on the sidelines and they chatter into those officials' ear the whole time.
They
So I
do.
think they do get opportunities to express that. That's on page 15. That rule isn't there,
But
coach.
if they treat them poorly, then they're removed. I've seen some coaches treat
Which is
them
why
very poorly
wanted
after
to
manual.
when we discussed it at MHSA, that was one of the reasons why putting that in there, and that's why we'll have the jurisdiction, is so that officials know that you can still give that unsportsmanlike conduct penalty after the fact, you know, so that's, I'm sure Kathy's gonna talk about it.
I think she will.
Well, I also ref volleyball. I do like 5 sports, but I have my cards in my pocket, and I can, when you start talking to me too much, I just sit down and just stop talking to me. But it's a whole different aspect, you know. It's we don't want to be totally unapproachable, but I've just never had a coach come right up in my face.
Oh.
I think a lot of the coaching issues are going to be lessened if they understand that we're starting at a 10 and we're going down. It's a huge ordeal for a coach when they get a score. They want to know why. And I think that's going to clear up a lot of even the 10-minute thing. And it looks really shady on judges' parts when they pick up their stuff and they're out the door as soon as the sport starts. And as a former competitive coach, I don't want that person back. I'm not going to rate you well. It's a big deal. You can't bail. But it's going to lessen the after effect if we all start on the same page in the beginning.
Well, on the same topic of a rating of an official, it honestly, and I hate to, it sucks when you get a crappy rating and you don't know who it came from.
Amen to that.
It sucks because you're like, what did I do wrong? I can't look back and see if I judged you bad that day and then the week before I gave you all 10s. Like, it sucks to not know. But yeah, you know who we are.
Yeah, or they can't approach them and say, why did you give it?
Yeah.
You can't have a professional conversation. I mean, really, it's about the conversation in between the score and the performance, and to not be able to.
And I've heard a lot of coaches that don't do their official ratings until the end of the season, not after each meet. So it's like, are you judging me from a meet that you had in December now in March? How fair is that?
Because I didn't make it through districts.
I'm serious. I liked you in January, but I didn't make it through district, so
Yeah, I
guess
don't
what?
like you now.
But that goes back to, I can't rate you in December if I'm gonna see you again in February.
But if we have to rate you guys
Because you-
differently every time we see you,
what if it
why don't we
changes?
rate me differently
Yeah,
every
but
time
you
we see
can
you?
rate the same coach 5 times, or
Yeah.
judge 5 times.
Yeah.
You
After
can give
each
them a
meeting,
1 in
just rate them.
December,
Right.
give them
But
a
you put it
3
in there, when you
January.
put it in there, it asks you, how many times have you seen this judge?
Right.
So they want you to do it at the end.
So basically, the way it's set up, they do want you to do it at the end.
Right.
Oh, okay.
That's the way it's set up.
But if you did it for the third time and just say it's the third time you've seen them,
It's not the, well,
I'm just.
I do them after
Because you have to
every
submit it to your
competition.
athletic director to sign off
Almost should
before it's
require
sent to MHSAA.
Your AD has to sign off.
Has to sign
Yeah.
off. So they're not gonna sign off every time you wanna
Right.
rate. They wanna do it one time.
exactly,
Stephanie, does
They
it still
win.
require a comment for a certain level?
yes.
5 or something like that, isn't
I
it?
think it's 3, 4, and
Four.
5.
Anything
under 3, 4.
Oh, you have to click a box
Yeah.
if it's a 3. Yeah.
It has to be signed off.
They give you a list of the schools that gave you a vote.
Okay.
They don't give you.
Two things.
Which one?
Getting back to this 10-minute thing, I can't tell you, I have been to countless competitions where the person in charge of the competition has asked the judges to leave the floor before they make the announcements.
Several I've been to have said that too.
Yeah.
And you think, wait a minute, I'm supposed to stay here. No, we want you out of here.
Right.
Then you can wait in the
Wait in the
judges room.
where you're doing your video.
If a coach wants to find you, they're gonna find you.
I
Yeah.
agree.
They're gonna find you.
I think we're sort of leaving ourselves open for criticism. Yeah. When we're that open. I just think, I don't know, I think there becomes a time when, you know, I judged as I saw it and I judged and that was it.
I feel like if you say on the floor, it leaves it open to coaches, parents, spectators, everybody, because I've been approached by several parents, and I don't know how to respond to that because I don't want to be crappy to them, but.
Yeah, almost some of their I appreciate all the controversial conversation that we've had this morning. I highly doubt we'll make any changes to, our sheets or anything, but, yeah.
Well, no coaches ever came in the room after 20-some years and said, you guys were the best officials.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
They always want to come in with the negative.
Yeah.
and They need the 24, 48-hour rule like everybody else has.
I
Because you need to think about it first, you know what I mean?
All noted, and you always will have an opportunity of course, we're this manual for 2 years now, but Candy always sends out, asking for recommendations at the end of the insert time during the season, and always, even if it's something like that, send it in, you never know if it's gonna make it in.
And I usually have a conversation with Kathy every Monday. So, and
Yeah, Candy Cox is considered our liaison to MHSAA from MCJA, so if you have something you just want to share with her, a concern, a issue, anything that you feel needs a little more interpretation or clarification, Candy is graciously does that for MCJA every weekend, and then every Monday has that conversation. Whoop.
Want to make a comment?
Well, mine are more from the coaching perspective. I'm more relieved that there's other forms outside the book, because really the manual has been my only connection to competitive cheer. I was on the original council and when that was all formed. And it's still very dry to me to only see the manual, and that's literally all I've ever seen, whether I've been choreographing or what I've been doing. So to come in this room and find out there's other ways that all of you determine, what is your moderate, your fair, your average, is a huge relief to me as a coach.
Well, these are just 2 of the forms. You can go on the MCJ website.
Just that there's anything, that there's a mindset that you know what you need to do for consistency. And then the second thing I'm going to say to all of you, for whatever it's worth, is from a coaching perspective, I've heard a lot at CAM when we did the forum in August, and then I've heard a lot in this room about judges being very aware of or not wanting to be thought poorly of or not wanting to anger coaches or whatever.
But the reality is, do you really think coaches are the most objective people about their team and their score? They're not objective at all. So when, you know, like, I'm way more in the vein of that was my call today. That's how they saw us today. And it's the coach's job to figure out what scored well that day and how to improve. I'm not against going to deductions of knowing why I got a 7 on both those versus a 10. But in the reality of a sport, the soccer coach doesn't get to walk over to the officials and ask on that play for technical advice. And so nor should that onus be put on you, and I don't even think you should necessarily accept it on yourselves. But from the standpoint of judging in this country, you guys are so far above, no one can touch you. So don't sit in this state and let certain coaches or experiences make you feel like you're less than, or that you need to be at just, you know, absolutely perfect or spot on. They can go to Tennessee, or they can go just south of the border and find nothing but a crap storm, and no one has to account for anything. So don't take that on yourself. And I'm not saying don't be compassionate or whatever, but don't feel like targets or feel like you have to be above, you know, some ridiculous standards. I just don't think that's right. And coaches need to put the time in to figure it out themselves if that's not your job. My only comment.
All right. Thanks, Jill. Good job.